Hi, you guys. Welcome for joining us. I'm glad you're here. We're looking over, like, there's so many different trends in aesthetics that we're just peeking at that are good and bad.
Yeah, I know.
So we're gonna
There's
go through
always
them all
good and
tonight.
bad. And, well, hopefully this will become interactive. Do we have the screen? Oh, you'll get the chat. Okay, so hopefully it'll be interactive. Ask away. We'll go through different trends that we think, that we hear. We'll banter back and forth.
Yeah, so get on
Talk
there
about
and
different things.
give us comments. So we can banter back and forth to make it
But-
fun for us.
Let's see. We're supposed to catch up since last AI Live. I don't know. How come this month has felt so
did we
long?
do?
I don't even remember it.
This is June. I don't know. I've been in like Texas and Arizona and
Was that in Taiwan?
Boston. You were in Taiwan.
I was in Taiwan. Yep, I did go to
So-
Taiwan. I was
Yeah.
in Taiwan, spoke at AMWC, and then I've been working. Lots of trainings. Trainings are fun. Education's fun. That's why we
Yeah.
do this, and we have fun doing this. I guess we can start
Okay.
talking about
Perfect.
trends.
I
Do you guys
know.
have any trends that you guys have been hearing or wondering and stuff like that? Start asking questions because there's a lot of trends that are going on and things like that. And so, it's one of those interesting things because I've watched trendiness things because I have a all Asian population and I've been watching that. I've had that since 2004-ish. And I hear trends, things that go in and out. And, sometimes it's just changing up a name and marketing it in a different way and not realizing that it's not anything brand new.
Nothing new.
And so, yeah, it's a very, very interesting thing with regards to trends. And so, we'll talk about some of the trends that we hear with regards to just overall trends for patients, but even trends within the industry as far as education and things like that. We'll definitely talk about that. Let's see. What else do we want? How do we want to jump into this?
Well, I want to kind of talk about some of the trends that we're seeing. And I don't know about you guys in your practices, but we're seeing a lot of people wanting a much more natural look, and kind of leaning towards some of the biostimulants and the
Yep.
slower improvement things, which we've liked for years anyway. So some of these things are so controllable and they're layerable, and it's really, really nice to be a good adjunct sometimes to sometimes things that we need that might be filler. Like they might need fillers, but sometimes these biostimulants and biologics work beautifully to replace some of that age-related volume loss, which is really, really nice. So I'm seeing a lot of trending towards that.
Yes.
The minute you say
Bios-
natural to your patients, they're like, yes, I want natural. So I'm like, that's the buzzword, is natural. And what's interesting, what I learned at Dr. Swift's course when I went there a few weeks ago, was that he was talking about what people talk about and like what's important to our patients. And beauty was not number one. Beauty was like number 3. Youthfulness was number 1. So interesting how like the buzzword for us should be, we're going to help you look younger and more youthful, because that should be our buzzword, because that's what's really resonating with our patients is that, rather than I'll make you beautiful or something.
Yeah, I think beauty, people put that standard as Hollywood or what you see magazine, a model. Most of us don't resonate ourselves with regards to being a model. None of us really want to be.
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to be.
So I know we had questions. Somebody talked about the Keyhole Pout, which actually I've seen people come in and actually have a pretty little keyhole pout because they had 2 really pretty little tubercles on the bottom. So sometimes we try to accentuate that, sometimes not. But when you see people trying to put a string in there, or dental floss, or a little Q-tip, and they're trying to make 2 tubercles when there aren't 2 tubercles with a gel that squishes everywhere, it's not going to happen. It's not
It
going to
looks
stay
good
there.
right away, but once you start to move and the
Yeah.
muscles move, it's going to squish into the area.
Yeah.
It's kind of like patients who have a dimpled chin.
Cleft, yeah.
You got that cleft chin is not going to fully come out and become a nice pointy chin for those that really want the pointy chin. And those that want a cleft chin, I can't give you a cleft chin without making you look like Big Jay Leno in
Yeah.
a sense. And even then, it's really not going to do that. Those patients who have the keyhole pout is because they naturally have a ligament tendency that pulls it right in the middle, and that's just their natural thing. It's kind of like when you have a cleft chin or you have a dimple. I can't give you a dimple.
Yeah.
You naturally have a dimple. So those are trendy things that don't make sense. And remember, it's trendy. They show you right away because when you inject it, you can hold it down. And then after a week or 2 weeks of talking and moving, it goes right back and spreads and blends and integrates into the area. And then you have that issue.
Yeah, it's not going to stay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's jelly.
Yeah.
We are injecting jelly.
Where you
So
definitely
if there's
need
not a
gel.
compartment to hold it in, it's not going to stay.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of like the whole Russian lip thing, you know, when people like those big Russian lips. Half of those are photoshopped anyway.
Yep.
But that's not going to stay.
Yeah, it definitely
And-
is not going to stay.
Yeah.
Guys, can you go back down on the chat just so we can see? Because we're
a couple-
biostimulants.
Yeah, threads are another.
threads are definitely so
threads
that-
are trending huge.
Oh.
Huge.
Well, both you and I train, but I mean,
see it all.
definitely. I mean, ultimately, threads is going to be more and more and more huge in the U.S. And I think those that are in the bandwagon of no, I'm not going to, you know, take it with a grain of salt. It's not, to me, it's not a dangerous thing to do. You really do need to get the right training for it. You need a good hands-on training. It's not one, it's not two, it's 3, 4, 5 type of trainings with different people or with the same person, whoever it is. Get hands-on. Threads is a higher learning curve than fillers or even toxins, and so it's it really, really is amazing. The results that you can get when you place them in the right area, you have the right vector design, you're using the right threads, you can get amazing stimulation of collagen, lifting up, smooth threads versus Sculptra. I love both. I think that they can definitely work very, very nicely. I think smooth threads is much more of a specific area versus Sculptra is a more generalized area because you're opening up a vial, you want to throw it all over. So smooth threads, you're going to stay more superficial. Sculptra, there is trendiness with like Shino Bay. He injects Sculptra on the bone, you know, and so there's a difference with regards to utilization of Sculptra that you can do a periosteal as well as into that deep dermis superficial subcu. So I think both are great, and if you can combine them, even better. You're working on different levels of collagen stimulation. So I think both are great.
I do too. Yeah, I do too. It's I think we need just to be really aware of anatomy, and we need to be aware of what level we're affecting the skin. Like, where are we affecting the skin? Are we in the dermis? Are we in the sub-Q? Are we in the durable and sub-Q areas? Are we down in the SMAS? Where are we on the bone? Where are we? And then we kind of have to know, okay, what can we do in these layers? Can you stimulate a whole bunch of collagen in the fat? No.
Yep.
Can you stimulate fat in the fat with a certain product like Renuva? Yeah, you can. So we have to know where we are to know what we're going to stimulate, or it's like throwing water in the wind. It's just going to go away.
Aaron, that's a great question. Sculpture autoimmune diseases. I mean,
Nope.
with this whole biostimulation,
Yeah.
you really have to understand what are the mechanism of actions that cause this biostimulation, that cause this increase in collagen production. Threads being one of them, it's a plus minus. There is some documentation from Asia that shows that PDO threads actually have an anti-inflammatory effect. So that is for you to play around with. So smooth threads in that aspect of it, or threads in general. I have yet to have anybody with any issues, even on autoimmune. With regards to just, was it the Sculptra? It is an autoimmune, it's an immune response.
Yeah.
It's a low level immune response causing the immune cells to get into the area to respond and cause the macrophages and the collagen to stimulate in a certain way. So Sculptra in an autoimmune disease, I would probably negate and say no. Now you're using maybe something like a radius, a hyperdilute radius, very different, because hyperdilute radius has to do with more of the stretch of the scaffolding and the fibers that doesn't rely on an immune response to it. So that's a different type of biostimulator. So if I had an autoimmune patient, I probably would use more hyperdilute radius in that patient.
Yeah, you just have to know what it's stimulating and what the mechanism is. And if you're mounting a foreign body response to something, you need to know what that response is and where it's coming from, so you know how to prevent it. So I always say, know a lot of your why, and that'll give you your answer. So I am actually pretty careful, even doing PDO threads on somebody with autoimmune disease. I ask a lot of questions first, because what I don't want to do is kind of wake up that sleeping bear. I just want to be careful about that, mounting that response from someone. But definitely I don't do Sculptra in somebody with autoimmune, because I don't want to flip on that autoimmune switch and have Crohn's wake back up after being asleep for a while.
Yeah.
So I want to be super, super careful. So I would say if you're ever concerned, err in the direction of patient safety, and you'll always be happy and be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else do we see?
Another thing I see trending, I see this a lot, and I don't know if you see this or not. You probably do. Do you have patients coming into your office that are hopping from one Instagram famous person to another?
Luckily, I actually don't have too many of those. But I don't think I get on my Instagram like a ton of. I get patients who follow me, but I think I have a lot more practitioners somehow. I get a balance. I think a lot of my patients come from referrals, or kind of our marketing with regards to that. I get my random that are with regards to, Instagram and stuff like that, but I don't get a ton that I feel as are jumpers. They're looking for me because I do a lot of threads, and so they really want me to do their threads on that aspect of it. They're not like, oh, you do the Botoxes and the fillers, and they're jumping around. So I don't get too many of those, thank God. But that is something to be worrisome about. Instagram is about the popularity contest.
It's their new, right? And it's like they use this as a referral source. And what concerns me is I've had people come into me and they said, I've gone to Dr. So-and-so and this person, I wasn't happy there and I wasn't happy there, and I waited 3 hours there and I didn't like that. So then they come into me, and once they start saying all this, I'm like, okay, that's the Instagram famous person. Okay, that one's got a big IG following. So I realize they're just following, their referral source is Instagram. And the first thing I do is I say, you got to stop. You need to vet your provider. Some of those people I can't even follow because they scare the crap out of me.
Yep.
So and even though they're very popular, their techniques I can't. But I tell them, I go, you need to vet your provider. You've got to look at their education. There's so many other things to look at rather than just this prettiness on Instagram and how can I dance and then sometimes I'll do lips. But I think it's very important to vet your provider. I think it's super important. Look at their education, look at their credentials, and that's something that I see people hopping around quite a bit. And the other thing is when people are not happy and they're like, I don't like there and I don't like there and I'm not happy there, and then when they come to me, I'm like, I'm not going to make you happy. So I might not be the one for you either. So sometimes I take that as a little bit of a red flag.
For sure. A lot of questions actually on like PRP exosomes. What's your take on PRP and exosomes?
We used to do PRP. Neither one of us do it now, but we used to do PRP for years, and it's great. It's terrific. But it's not. People think it's a filler. They're like, I did it under eyes and nothing grew. I'm like, it's not gonna. It's really gonna just help boost a little bit of collagen production, but it's not a dermal filler. Yeah. And
what do you think about the whole trend of PRF and making it in gel and stuff like that?
I think it's.
This is the thing.
It might stay in the tissue a little longer, but I think it's just.
PRF is a body thing. PRP is a body thing. Do you think your body's going to make a filler? It's not. No. You guys have to go back to science. The science does not show it. And if we actually look outside the country, I just talked to somebody who is a salesperson for an Italian company. I'm looking at some of their stuff, but ultimately he even says PRP in Europe is so out. Nobody in the European Union uses PRP, PRF, blah blah blah. They're not talking about it. They're talking about exosomes, and Europe just recently banned exosomes from a human, so they actually have synthetic exosomes, and they're plant exosomes. They have it from apple exosomes, and I think Korea Benev has rose flower exosomes for those that don't allow human exosomes from human sources and stuff like that. But PRP and PRF, you guys have to realize you're relying on that person's body to utilize their growth factors. What makes you think that that little snapshot that you drew out of it is healthy?
And exactly. And if they're older, they're going to have crappier blood.
They're going to have crappier
And
blood.
the other thing is, I see a lot of people still drawing a 10 cc vial of blood, and they're spinning it down and getting a few cc's of
5
PRP.
cc's.
Maybe, yeah,
Like,
maybe.
look, my
maybe.
5 cc's.
So, and you're
go
getting like a 2-time concentration. You may as well just draw their own blood and smear it on their face, because you're not getting good growth factors from that.
You guys have to realize, go back and look at a true definition of PRP. When I was doing PRP, which was 10, 12 years ago, right?
Yeah.
That's when I jumped on it, when Asia and Europe was actually already in the higher stage. We here in the US are so behind. You guys are using PRP. I think you guys are slightly behind. I think there are some aspects that work, like I think the dark circles and stuff like that can work, but there are receptors for plant exosomes. They are actually very similar to it. So they've done the research. Apple and Rose actually do have ones that actually do affect it, Karen. But ultimately, PRP is something that, you guys have to realize. If you go back to the orthopedic usage of it, it's 5 to 8 times concentration. So if you get 10 cc's and you spin it down, you should only have the bottom 1 to 2 cc's. That's it. That's true PRP. If you're mixing it and go, look, all my gold stuff, that's just PPP, platelet poor plasma. And that's 1-time concentration, 2-time concentration, 3-time concentration. You guys have to stop going out there and looking at trends.
Yeah.
You guys have to go back and look at science, and go back and, maybe you look at trends. Look at trends from outside of the U.S., not from your colleagues here, unfortunately, because I think a lot of it, unfortunately, even on the stage, it's just talking about the same thing, about the same people. That's why I love going outside the country. You don't see me at a lot of the U.S. Talks, just because I speak for things that I truly believe for, but really I'm looking at outside stuff because I think their innovation is so much more important on that aspect of it. And so ultimately that's, to me, exosomes are going to be the leader and trend with regards to at least having more growth factors, more powerful aspects to change the receptor response, change the collagen response. I know the Benev ones that we use a lot and we talk about, 600% increase in collagen production, 300% increase in elastin production. You can't get that with over 40, 50 growth factors in that. You can't get that from PRP. Yeah. So there's no comparison whatsoever, and there's no point in mixing it. I think people rely on the PRP for a reason. Ultimately, there's can I comment about EvoSkin PRF device? Anything PRF, PRP, whatever, PRFM, blah, 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 it's relying on your body's own stuff. And if your stuff is not healthy, for one thing, not great. At the end of the day, if you're not getting that platelet to super concentrate, so you get all of those growth factors into a tiny amount and injecting that, you're not getting enough of stuff. And that's just plain and simple. Orthopedics, they're using 60 cc's. When I used to do PRP, I used to buy the orthopedic one, 60 cc's, and we'd spin it down to maybe 5 to 8 cc's of stuff. So ultimately, that's where I'm not a big fan of PRP, PRF, blah, blah, blah. Occasionally, a little bit of PRP, I think, does help with the whitening, but I think there are some other stuff out there that I can probably do for whitening. The panda eyes is where I really have found that PRP does a decent job on that aspect of it. But, I mean, definitely, your PRF, PRPs that people are talking about, injecting it underneath your eyes and stuff like that, it's not going to fill, but if you're thickening up the skin, it will look a little bit better. It's like taking exosomes, and you could inject your exosomes in the area and get probably similar results. But, to me, you're getting more powerful type of results. And we're doing other things, PDRN, and all this other stuff that can be out there in that sense.
Yeah, and keep in mind that PRP, PRF, PRFM, they're all very pro-inflammatory.
Yes, PRP swells like a mother
Right,
effer.
so you can do under eyes, and they're swollen for a few weeks, whereas exosomes are very de-inflammatory, which is kind of nice. So if you use them after procedure, you're going to help reduce some of the inflammatory
For sure.
reactions to it, which is kind of nice. So
Which is what you
I
want,
like that.
honestly.
I like that.
You know, the body. You guys really don't realize that the body swings like a pendulum. You know, it does not know where to stop until it finishes finally healing. So when you first damage it, you go one level out here, and you really start to really kind of overly respond in that aspect of it, and then you swing back and swing forward and back. I mean, it's really understanding that aspect of it. If you look at it, when dermatologists treat burns, they put them on steroids. I think a lot of us have this misconception: why are you putting them on steroids? I'm doing a CO2. Because you don't want them to overly inflame. If you think about it, you have this little fire in your kitchen. You don't call the whole county's fire department to come put out that small little kitchen fire. If you do that, you're going to be spending a lot of time repairing, and that's what happens to your body and why you have slower healing times. If you can put an exosome into it, you knock it out where you call 1 or 2 fire engine, you put out that fire, you can start healing, you can start repairing so much more faster. And that's where I think exosomes outweigh PRP. PRP draws in more inflammation into the area, and you're swollen for a lot longer. And maybe that's the reason why there is a little bit of effect, because it's drawing in more inflammatory, because you're inflaming the area so much more. Lots of questions about cooking plasma. I mean, what are you doing? You're just utilizing your own body's thickening agent, which is what you're doing when you're creating that cascade of the fibrinogen and all that stuff.
So you have to be careful about something that's being turned into a thick gel, because you can occlude a vessel with that.
You're going
to
to occlude a vessel and
So
people think, oh, look, it's a filler.
you get
There
a
are
vascular
actually,
event. And that's not going to stay as a filler. That's not a filler. It's not going to stay.
yeah, it's
That's going to go.
not a filler. It's going to break down because it's your body. It's going to break it down. So I think people get mistaken and sold on it as a filler, but how is it a filler? Really, how is it a filler? You tell me.
It's got growth factors. You know, it's got some
But
growth
it's not a
factors, but
filler.
it's not a filler.
It's not a filler.
We used to think so. When
Oh,
we first
trust
got
me.
it,
When I first was doing this, was like 10, 15 years
Yeah,
ago. I'm like, oh my God, it's
we're like,
gonna
great.
fill. No.
And then we're like,
No.
there's nothing happening.
And this is the whole thing. You know, the PRP thing, I think, has been blown up here in the U.S. and loved, but
Yeah. I think exosomes is really of the future. And it's easier. It's simple. You don't have to go draw blood. You don't have to have a centrifuge.
It's consistent.
Mix it. Go. It's very consistent.
consistent.
And you're not getting it from a multi-age, you know, it might
Demographic.
be, you're getting it from one specific, like some are actually from umbilical cord, some are from, you're getting brand new exosomes that are little tiny babies. So, or from the umbilical cord. So you're getting Wharton's jelly things in some of these things, and it doesn't cover, it doesn't transfer DNA. There's no DNA in it. It's just like an acellular.
Yeah. Exactly.
Little being thing.
Exosome can be channeled. They can be injected. That's up to you. You know, I know the Benev ones we use are topical, but I'll use them I'll inject them. Like I'll do a little underneath the eyes, just a little subdermally. I'll do it into the hair. I won't do it IV. There are definitely better exosomes and stem cells that are much more clarified, but they actually do. At least I know the Benev, when I've walked through the factory, they make it like in a high grade, like you could inject it if you really wanted to. You could, but they go through a whole huge process of sterilization and stuff like that, and stabilization with regards to that, and the aspect of it. So
Dorothy Tixel, you're asking about Herb Tixel. How funny you say that. Actually, I went back to Utah and had a Tixel done because the company wanted me to look at the device. It's interesting. It's kind of cool. It's like putting a waffle iron on your face, like little tiny stamps.
Yeah.
It's just heat. It's specific heat for a specific amount of time, and you're just kind of frying that top little layer real lightly, and the downtime is a few days because it's just dry and red, and that kind of flakes off within a week. So I didn't buy the device only because I have a CO2. And if I did a really, really light CO2, it's really kind of the same as that Tixel. You're just kind of taking off that very top layer of the skin, some of the sun damage, and it's nice. It's really nice. So some of the practices are really, if you're in a state where estheticians can not do lasers, but they can use heat device like that. Some of the estheticians are being able to use this device to do a light resurfacing. So rather than have like a licensed nurse do it, they're letting some of the estheticians do it because it's not a laser. Right. But it works very well. It's light. It's not heavy. But there is a timeout on the handpiece. So I think like 100,000 pulses, and you got to buy a new handpiece on like $10,000 or $8,000 or $10,000. So there is a timeout on it. But yeah, no, it's a nice device. I think it's a good, safe device. Yeah, good question.
Defective exosome?
Never heard of defective exosomes.
Defective exosomes. I'm not sure. There are a lot of different exosome companies. It's hard to determine which one is best. We personally use Benev because as far as a topical exosome out there, they actually went through all of the correct ways from an international standpoint as far as I guess you could say the ingredients. They've shown the effectiveness, how they produce it. They have by international standards actual ingredient for their exosome, so they can actually appropriately write exosomes on their actual product versus a lot of them that say there are exosomes. If you read them and ask them, they actually can only label it as derived from something, human derived fat, serum, platelet derived, blah, 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 serum, blah, blah, blah. So that's definitely different things. What is it?
NDA.
Probably NAD?
I'm thinking, is it NAD? Miro? Is it NAD?
NAD is great.
It's probably
wellness, all of that stuff.
Yeah, NAD is nicotinium, adenosine,
it's
glutathione.
Essentially supposed to recharge your mitochondria. It's supposed to be anti-aging. It's supposed to be, and that'll be something when you guys join on the 27th with Dr. Group, the groups and the global healing. There you can ask them about NAD. They have a great cellular NAD product, and the methylene blues are ones that actually are out there that actually does it. Benev is so expensive. No, it's not.
No.
Are you serious?
It's
no.
It's like $100 per patient.
It's $150 per patient. I don't think that's expensive at all.
I charge $299.
You charge a PRP tube, a PRP tube by thing is somewhere between $70, $80. Unless you're doing it yourself and doing a $2 PRPs, then
so I think it's around.
That's not what you're supposed to be doing.
I think the Benev. I think usually the exosomes are like $150, and I charge around $300 to do them. So that's kind of what
I mean. I don't think there's any problem adding it to your patient's procedure costs. I mean, you charge them an extra $300, $500. I tell them this is going to decrease your inflammation. It's going to decrease your healing time. It's going to increase your collagen production by 600% and your elastin production by 300%. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I'm already creating holes in your face with microneedling. These are things that if you explain the science behind it, and you can explain the science behind it and it makes sense, your patients are willing to do it. They may spread out the microneedling instead of doing it every month or 2 months, maybe only every 3 months, but that's so that they can afford something that's going to actually benefit them. It's synergistic. You're going to get it in deeper into that area. That 300 in microneedling is expensive.
You have to kind of look at the area you're in. True. Yeah, $300 in one area of the United States might be a lot more than say in like LA.
True.
That's true, Karen. So another little trend we want to talk about different trends here. Have you seen a lot of people naming their own procedures, like the X lift or
my lollipop,
like the lollipop procedure, or we got the vampire facial. That's been around for a long time, but these are trademarked. So that's a kind of a trend where people are really doing the same thing.
Be careful.
We all do.
Unfortunately, when they trademark it, like you can't use vampire facial. They're going to go after you if you will vampire facial. And you can't use
microtox. You cannot use microtox. That's from
and then go after you. 8-point lifts, blah, blah, blah. There are some doctors that have an NDA that you can't talk about what they do at their trainings and stuff like that. We're here to be open-minded and help people elevate and stuff like that. So I think that, you just have to understand that there's going to be people that are very secretive.
What you'll find if you guys go and train with different people, that you'll find providers that will have you sign a non-disclosure agreement. So whatever you learn from them, you can't share. So where are you going? Are you ever going to share what you've learned with other people to help other people learn and grow? That doesn't make sense. I will not sign a non-disclosure agreement because I teach. And God forbid, I say one word of what I learned before in something. So we always need to give credit for where we learn something. I always really try to go, you know what, I went to this class or I learned this from this person. I think we really always need to credit somebody. But keep in mind, when you see a lot of these little special techniques, it's what we all do anyway. They're just putting a name on it.
Yep.
It's a cold laser. No, it's not. It's the same CO2 we all have. So
Y lift.
Right, the Y lift. So all these different things, beware, just be aware of that. And sometimes they're not as special as what they sound, and you can't just get it at one person's place.
Unfortunately, it is a lot of marketing.
Is ridiculous.
It's the same procedure, and they just create this whole thing, and it's marketing to teach you a technique which isn't that, I guess, revolutionary. It's normal.
Yeah.
But people pay and stuff like that. So unfortunately, that does happen out there.
So what do you guys? I want to hear your comments. So we've been doing aesthetic immersion for probably 4 years now.
4 or 5 years.
There weren't really many schools out there. Now everybody's teaching. What do you guys think about that? So we see a lot of people thinking they're going to make a lot of money off of schools and trainings, and that's good, because I think a lot of injectors are going into the business, and a lot of people need to be trained. But I'm concerned about some of these are newer injectors who are teaching.
Well, even trainers for some of the companies are not great.
Yeah.
I mean, I know one of our partners, she had a laser, and she's been using lasers since we began. And so she was training her staff, and so she's decided to have the company send over their trainer for the laser. And it was a CO2 laser, and she said, I have a little scar here, just give me a little resurfacing over that area. And the trainer put it on the setting, and then my partner's like, that's a little high. I just want a light little thing. And the trainer's like, I've been doing this for a couple of years. Don't worry about it. I got it. And she literally went to go do it. Not only did she miss the scar, she burned the crap out of the area. And that person was a nurse that was supposed to train for the company on how to use it. So be careful when you get laser trainers out there, even trainers for the companies. You have to realize, when we go out and train for companies, we are handcuffed by what FDA says. And so some of the things that we teach you, unfortunately, in those trainings is not something that I actually do in practice. I mean, unfortunately, when I'm on stage and I'm talking, I'm like, that's not really what I do, but I have to talk about it because FDA requires me and the company requires me. So realize you guys need to pay for your own education if you really want to advance in this field. It's not about just getting free trainings and going to it. Free is free. That's why it's free education in a sense. There are things that you can learn free. That's why we do this aesthetic. The AI Live is to kind of elevate it and teach people kind of where you can go and what's kind of out there, but you still need to go pay for your education. I mean, if you aren't doing like a private training with somebody in your area or flying across and learning and stuff like that, it gets expensive. But yeah, Brooklyn, frustrated that getting into it's expensive, 3 to 5. But honestly, how much was it to get into medical school? 300,000, 400,000. You guys think that this is a field that you're just going to jump into and I'm going to get all this free training. Who's going to train you? You guys spent all that money to become a nurse. You spent $100,000, $200,000. They trained you to become a nurse to do nursing stuff. Aesthetics is a whole different field. Doctors, nurses, whoever you are, you don't get trained. So if you're not going and paying for the training and you're not willing to pay for the training, why are you doing it? Go do what you were trained to do. This is for those that want to jump into it. You can ask providers to shadow a little bit, to train a little bit, but it's their time. So if you're not going to pay the money to do it, this is your own education. If you want to get good at it, I pay for my trainings. Lori pays for training. She just went to Arthur Swift's course and paid for it. She didn't get it for free.
$5,600.
You know, you guys are in this field thinking that, oh, it's fine. I'm just going to learn from this and watch a YouTube and watch the Instagram. I would be scared, unfortunately, for you guys, because you guys are not getting good training. You guys are just watching what somebody else is doing. You know, ultimately, you need to go and find people who you find are credible. And yeah, put aside a budget. We put aside a budget every year that we're going to go find somebody that we feel is important to us, and we're going to go train. We're going to go learn. There's a lot of people I want to learn, not necessarily all from the States. I want sometimes international. So I'm going to fly overseas and train with certain people.
I'm already planning for Amsterdam next year in
See?
2024 to go with Leonie Schelke and
So I mean,
Tom DeCase.
You know, I think people complain about that, but even if you're getting your feet wet, we tell a lot of practitioners that jump into our school, ultimately go work for a med spa for free. Keep your day job, work 1 or 2 days so that you gain that experience and you're really investing into your education. Look at it as a residency, an internship. I have friends that are doctors that jumped into this. They didn't work after it for three months because they worked for dermatologists to try to learn all the techniques and learn and inject and stuff like that. That's where you really, really need to jump into it. You know, work for a med spa. I think it's important to jump into it, whether it's a med spa or derm practice or plastics. You know, work into a contract that you're going to get some training, some live injections, hands-on and stuff like that. But, you know, maybe instead of getting a nurse's salary, get a MA salary. Be a medical assistant 1 day a week at a place that you want to learn from, you know.
Well, I tell you, my medical assistant's been backing me up for the last year and a half, and she's learned so much. She knows how I think. She knows our core values. She knows everything. She's going to go to nursing school now, and I am totally going to keep her because she knows more than most everybody who's worked in the industry for a few years because she's listened to me talk to every patient. So I think find somewhere that maybe you can apprentice. If somebody will even pay you $20 an hour, and you can just apprentice and like go part-time.
Sure.
Keep your day job. Do this a couple days a week or a day a week, and just find somewhere where they just pay you minimally so you're covered under their malpractice, and then and apprentice somewhere and learn somewhere. You know, don't think that you can take a few classes and you're a new injector and you can open your open clinic. You can't. You will not be safe. Until you do this for a few years and you're under a mentor and you're under a preceptor and you see all the things that can happen and the good and the bad of everything, you're not ready to go out there on your own. And we see a lot of this, like, I'm going to take a class and go on my own. It's like, no, you're not. Please don't, because you don't know what you don't know. So it's really important to get out there and have a good mentor and have a good preceptorship with someone who can really teach you. That is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to me, it's truly important. Having been out there and seeing different trainers, different injectors, different everything, you realize that there is such a range of education out there. You can learn things that are horrible and you can learn things that are amazing. You know, and you know, just because you train with one person that is amazing, go and learn from another person, and that you're going to pick up different things from different people, and that's how you create your own artistry, your own techniques, your own thought patterns, because that's what we want for all of you guys to do. It's not just replicating different things that are out there. It's taking all that information, diluting it out into what you want to do, how you want to create your anti-aging mantra to your patients. That's what they're here to say and do for you. And, you know, ultimately it's educating your patient, but it's for you to educate yourself so you can educate your patient. If you can't explain to your patient why you're doing something, you really shouldn't be doing it. You should really figure out why you're doing something for your patient so that they understand, so that they're going to buy into it and become your long-term patient.
And you know what, if you've taken some good courses, and this is not the free stuff, that Galderma and Allergan and Merz offer. This is not the free stuff. If you've invested in yourself and you've taken some good courses and you've done some hands-on injectables in these courses, or you've spent some time, then what you can do is go around to some clinics and say, look, can I apprentice with you? They might have you sign a contract that says, you know what, you can apprentice, but if you bug out in 6 months, you owe us this amount of money for trainings. They might do that. So because they're investing their knowledge and their expertise and their time in you. So it's got to go both ways. You can't just take and learn from them and split. So they're going to want to make sure that you're going to probably stay there. So just know that, but let people know that you're out there and like, look, I want to work with you. Can I apprentice? Can I get $10 an hour and just a couple days a week? And then I will stay here and keep learning, and I will be a great employee for you. All of us are looking for really good employees. You want really good employees, but not ones that are going to take from you and just split and think they can just walk away. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shelly, the highlight new Restylane. It's not a new Restylane filler. It's just Restylane.
It's Restylane Classic.
It's Restylane Classic,
Yeah.
which a lot of us have already been using for a long time. It's just Restylane Classic. They now can talk and train on label. So when we go out there and train for them, we can actually say, yeah, we do use it underneath the eyes. But, you can use any filler underneath the eyes. I don't think that I use Restylane Lift underneath the eyes. I use Restylane Kiss underneath the eyes. I use a lot of different things underneath the eyes based off of what the anatomy tells me and I need. So this is where education does come into that point.
And Restylane been I use Restylane all the time, so it's great. So yeah. And then but except that in the iLight, it's FDA approved and it comes in 2 half cc syringes, not 1 cc syringe. So they're looking at safety, ease of use with a smaller syringe, smaller amount in the syringe, in overall patient safety. It's also FDA approved for needles and cannulas both, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, we'll get a train for it.
What is eye glazing? I have no idea.
Eye glazing is probably just frosting. Just frosting over, I think, is what they're doing.
Maybe.
Subdermal, just glossing over. You could do it with filler. You could do it with all the newer stuff, the PDRNs, the exosomes, all of that stuff. We can go on and on and on and on. I think
we could talk forever.
Our team's gonna knock us silly because we're gonna keep talking. Well, we haven't gotten to a lot of the trends.
I know
that
we haven't gotten to the big lashes.
We're probably gonna have to do this topic again. Probably, I think joining us next for the next one, we'll be talking about global healing and the health aspect to it. I think you guys are gonna learn a lot from that. I'm big into that. Morpheus, be careful. Big fan of Sulfurm, but look on our things that we talk about Sulfurm. There's a huge difference. I think Morpheus is one of those trends that we forgot to put on that. That's a big one. I'm starting to see a lot of patients' faces fall and patients' necks drop because they're doing it too deep. You guys are killing people's fat. You guys are killing people's faces using Morpheus. And it's not just a Morpheus issue, but because Morpheus is the biggest one, they've marketed themselves out there. People are not trained well using Morpheus. They don't know how to use it well. They don't think about skin. They just like, oh, I can do it. Boom, boom, boom. And they're killing people's faces. So be careful when you are doing Morpheus. Understand why you're doing it. Yeah. Join us June 27th. We're going to talk to global healing. That's going to be amazing. Cool. And I guess this is a hot topic for you guys. So maybe we'll continue this as a part 2.
We have more to talk about.
The following one.
We'll do that. We'll continue with trends.
We'll continue with trends.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys.
Good input, you guys. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We will see you guys next time, June 27th. So at the end of this month, same time, same channel. This will go up on our YouTube channel. So give them a couple days and it'll be in YouTube. All right. Sounds good, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see ya.